All right, class, welcome to week 11, I think. This week's a fairly easy week. I'm going to go over some stuff, but most of what I'm going to say is gone over in the book and or in Net Academy in greater detail. So just pay attention there, and you really should get everything. There's only one assignment due this week, and we're only going to cover part 2, module 2.1, 2.2, and 2.3. There's a lot of stuff to remember in there. There's a lot of content in there. It's all stuff you can look up later. So don't stress and concentrate on the assignment, which we'll talk about in a minute. They have, Net Academy has redone the whole second half of this course since last time I taught it. I think because if you remember back, I don't know, week 5-ish, I showed you a presentation about how lists and strings were compared, how to read binary, that kind of thing, to ASCII values, and I showed you this chart. That was not available before, so I had to create the lesson and teach that. I felt like that was missing from the course, but now they've added it. So you're going to see a little bit of that when you get into Net Academy this week. So for right now, we're going to jump into PyCharm and just talk a little bit about what's covered. They talk about internalization. They talk about UTF-8. It's not something I can really show you. You'll have to read about that. It's just, all that is so that everybody knows what everything means, and anybody in any part of the world can code, and it all kind of fits the same mold. It all works. But we're going to get into some stuff with strings. So we've been commenting a few things, or I can't remember. I haven't been checking for comments. Make sure you comment your code. That's kind of a big deal. So, 6 months from now, you go back to look at one of your projects because you want to remember how to do something. You look at the code, you can't read it. You don't understand what it's doing. If you comment the code and tell yourself what this piece of code does, it makes a difference. So if you need a big explanation, you want to put 3 doohickeys. That's the technical term. Apostrophes, and then you can type a long, and this is made for like block comments, like if you are familiar with the, nope, that's not it. If you are not familiar with the lorem, that is something that developers use to fill space. And my example here of a block comment that takes up multiple lines. You got 3 apostrophes on each end. Everything inside is not read by Python. So you can do a giant block comment this way, and sometimes that's very helpful. As opposed to having one giant sentence that runs the length of, I don't know, because it'll go on forever. You just have to keep scrolling. That's a real pain. If you'll notice this little line right here, that's about as long as your code should ever be. If it gets that point, you need to hit enter and start on a new line. So that is comments. Multi-line strings or multi-line comments. Now this, I don't know if this would be considered a variable or not. Let's see. I've never done this. Oh my goodness, look at that. That's pretty neat to know. So multi-line string, this can be a variable or a comment. It won't read it unless you declare it as a variable. You learn something new every day. I didn't know that. Never done that. Never had to type anything that long in a program, and you maybe not either. Your output should be short and concise. But anyway, that is that. We want to talk a little bit about concatenation versus replication. Concatenation is one of those words that you only hear programmers use. It means putting 2 strings together. I think we've probably covered this with lists. So to concatenate the string, I think a lot of the stuff that we've talked about this week we've covered, because right now we're talking about strings, but they are very, very similar to lists. And a matter of fact, you can do just about everything with a string that you can do with a list. So concatenation, you see it puts those two together. One thing to note is that strings are immutable, much like tuples. You cannot change the content of a string, whereas you can change the content of a list. So there are a few things that don't work. Hold on, I'm getting ahead of myself. Concatenation, you see that there's no space there. It just mushes the two variables together. Replication, let's do that real quick before I get off topic. You'll see this example, I think, in your book. So if I run that, it prints A 5 times. It's replicating this A 5 times. It's a neat little bit of code if you need spaces or, I don't know, design elements or something like that. Again, it's not something I use very often. Next week, again, I'm trying to get ahead of myself. So concatenation versus replication, right? Putting them together or repeating the same thing over and over again. Got the ORD function. It's something that you can do, ORD. Now, referencing this chart again, the ORD function will pull up the number based on the value. Does that make sense? I think that's right. No, that pulls up. Hold on. Yeah. So if I print ORD A, it gives me a 97. And then you go back to the chart here and you can see that 97 is the A. So ordinal, or ORD, the ORD function, will give you the number, the decimal number that corresponds with the character in the string. So if you had a string and you picked the index and you said, I want to know the ORD. This is also how you kind of get a value. A couple of weeks ago, I was showing you an assignment that I'm not even sure exists anymore, but they were comparing two strings, which one was greater, and I may or may not have talked about the string was the same, except for the first letter was capital in one and lowercase in the other, and the lowercase one had the higher number. Well, let's say you have a string and then for I in A, I'm not sure if I'm doing this right. What I think is going to happen is that it will calculate the ordinal value for each of the letters in the string, add them all up, and give me a total value. And that's what it'll print. And that's what it did. So it went through and it looked at all of it. It grabbed the ordinal value for string, added them all together, and gave me a total value. And this value is what it would use to compare against a different string. Let's say we had B. And then we use plus equals. I can reuse the I. Got to declare the M. All right, I'm getting a little big here. Orb. It's ORD, not orb. And then you can do if N is greater than M. Now, I think we already know which one's greater because we decided that the lowercase values are always going to be more number heavy than the lowercase values, but or the higher uppercase values. But let's see. So A is greater. Yep, the capital S and the lowercase s. A is greater. So this is how strings are compared, but not by the letters, but by their ordinal value. Opposite ord is the, and I hate these little, there are three little words, so it's CHR, but I think it means character, right? So this is the opposite of ord. And if I print, well, this is kind of weird, because if I print A, it's going to be A. Let's pick a different one. I'll just do 100, yep. So A is equal to 100, and I'm going to print the character that is equal to 100, and it's D from the chart, right? Opposite of ord, character, ord. Those things are good to know. I can't think of a reason you use it in a program, but maybe you will. We covered slices, and you'll see this example in your book. But we covered slices in lists, so you should understand this right here. 1 to 3, 3 to the end, beginning to 3, 3 to -2, which is 2 from the other end. You should understand this already. If you don't, let me know. Some things that you can do with lists that you cannot do with whatever we're talking about now. Strings. Insert and append. So these three right here, these big ones, you cannot use these with strings. They are list methods only, not string methods. So you can't delete something out. Why? Because it's immutable. You can't insert something. Why? Because it's immutable. You can't append something. Why? Because it's immutable. Immutable. Now, append and concatenate are similar, but different. So just remember that you can't use these three methods on a list. Now there are a slew of list method or string methods that you can use. And no, of course, let me go back to copy it. So here's my giant lorem paragraph again. You know what? I'm just going to leave it as one line. Just so it doesn't take up so much screen real estate here. I got to go to the end. I'm going to hit enter though. Man, it's long. So we're going to use what I learned just a minute ago. I'm going to do 3 of those. And 3 of those. Oop. And I think there's one. All right, I got it. Trying to make this so everybody understands it. Okay. So there are, like I said, there's a ton of list methods. They're going to go over most of these in the lesson. I just want to see what these do. Because again, I don't use these many often. You're going to use 2 upper, 2 lower, is digit, is space, that kind of thing. But there's a lot of these methods that you won't use. So that didn't do anything. Let's see. Probably because I used it wrong. Remember. All right. Well, I know this will work. All right, I'm getting confused with a different language, and I apologize. I'm going to do that often. Well, let's just do two upper right here, or upper. And I can't remember now. See what happens. Yeah, okay. This is how you use it. The methods are dot and then the thing. And I'm used to calling something from a different language, and I apologize. So, obviously the upper command will print everything in upper. You can use lower, and that will print everything in lower. These are good if you're trying to test input from a user, and you know, you're not sure if they, you know, some people capitalize everything like they're good stewards, and some people are lazy and they don't capitalize anything. But you need to be able to test the string that they input, password, whatever. So you want to convert whatever they input. Use lower or upper. Um, let's see. If you have some things that are cool to use, so you have a website that you want to use, and that's your variable. It's a string, so you got to make sure you got it in quotations. So you want to strip this else strip will strip all the W's out. So you know, just and you'll just have lenoreLCC.edu. That's something good to know, in case you want to screw it up. There's a title. And this will print everything. This is good for names. So it'll print every word with a capital letter. So like first name, last name. This is a good place that you would use title, or you know, book titles or movie titles or something that should be capitaled in the title fashion. There is alpha. So you see here, you got is all numbers, is alpha. You use is alpha, and you print that. It should just say true. No, it's false. Okay, it's false. Why is it false? Because there's punctuation in there. It doesn't count punctuation as alpha characters. Otherwise, it'd be true. It'd return true. And that way, like you're testing passwords, if it's all alpha, maybe it should be false because it's got to contain a number. If it's all digits, which is all numbers, is all num, right? That's gonna be false because there's no numbers in there. There is an is digit. So if you want to do a loop, let's just throw a 1 in here. And then try in lorem. If I is digit, I don't know if that's right, but so we're gonna concatenate, fancy word, this string with the index of the number, and I have no idea what that is. I just popped it in there. And I hope this works. Digit index 1, that's not right. No. At any rate, it did find a digit in there. Let's just do I find a digit and see if it works when I take it out. So I found a digit. Well, let's take the 1 out of there and see if it finds a digit. Did not find a digit. Okay, so it was working correctly, but I wasn't getting the index properly. I'm not sure why. So there are methods for finding out if it's a number. You got is all number or is digit. So if it's all numbers or if you're looking for indexes, just want to find a digit. You got is alpha, which checks just like is digit, it checks each index. I felt like there was an is all alpha, but I didn't write it down. Checks for space, checks if is lower, checks for lowercase. Is upper, checks for uppercase. And there's a bunch more. You can swap case and all that good stuff. So you have a lot of built-in methods. Now your assignment is going to kind of follow along this right here. So is alpha is digit, is lower, is upper. So you're going to see these three. You're probably going to use these three in your assignment, at least these three, and then you're going to create one of your own. And that is what I'm going to do for this week. Let's see, for I in lorem, if I is alpha, let's do his upper is lower instead. I don't know if yeah, I gotta do that. I gotta do that. I'm just gonna leave it all weird. So I'm not giving you all the answers. Uh, let's see if this works. Nope. Some of the basic stuff that I've been talking to you about for weeks, I still forget. Can't print the number. Man, it's gonna count integer. So you got to print the string there. So it's got 365 lowercase letters, 4 uppercase letters. Is that right? Let's see. 1 uppercase, 2. Yeah, I guess it might be right. 3 and 4. Yep. So I guess that's right. And I'm not counting 365 letters. I'm just going to assume that's right. So that would be your assignment this week. You're going to do a few more things, but it's just like that. Super easy, guys. If you have any questions, let me know. Thanks.